Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Soul Powered Podcast. I am like jumping out of my seat, excited today, as you can see, and as you will see throughout this episode, because my best friend, my soul sister, my queen, my everything is here with us today again. And I could not be more excited. Welcome, Victoria. I'm so excited to have you here, as always.
Thank you, Rebecca. Those that are watching the video have already seen me like jumping around like as you've been introducing me. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure, as always, to be in your presence, but to be able to share how your work has impacted my life. I'm so excited to go into that. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited as well. And like you said, you'll get to see it. You'll probably hear it in our voices as well if you're listening. So welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. And really the intention for today is really just to kind of share, okay, what is the power of this journey? Because I talk a lot about becoming the wildly wealthy woman and rising to riches. Like, what does it actually mean? And I know that I share a lot about my story, and I'm even being called to dive deeper into my story, sharing on the podcast, sharing on my social media channels. But I would love to have you share a little bit about your journey, because I celebrate you every day, and you know this. I can't tell you enough how proud of you I am, how excited I am for your journey, how I have always seen this version of you unfolding, and now it's here, and it's also, just the beginning, right? So I would love to just share and have you share a little bit more about your journey of getting here. And I want to start with, because I know where you are right now. And you are the wildly wealthy woman, and you do magnetize abundance, and you do magnetize clients now, like beyond even what I know that you thought was possible before. But let's start with where you were before we met, before you started diving into this, because I really think that if we can start there, that many people might see themselves in your story and then start to realize that it's actually possible for them too. So can we start there? And will you share with us, like, where were you before you started this journey? Where were you before we met? And where were you before your money mindset journey?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So I'm going to start with okay, so I won't give you a long backstory of my childhood and life around money. That's not important. What is important is before I met you, before I moved to the Netherlands, and that's how I met you through my now husband, Wouter, I was the kind of person who I was working my passion at the time, which was with horses. So I've ridden horses since I was 5, and I train horses and all those things. So at least I was out of the system in regards to I was actually doing what I wanted to do, but there wasn't much money in it at all. And even when I had my own business buying and selling horses, it was very sporadic. I would be earning at the most kind of 1,800 a month. And it was always like a swap your hour time for an hour's wage with money. Even when I had my own business, I always worked it out that way because I didn't know there was another way. And so hearing someone say something like, oh, I went on holiday and the holiday cost me 10 grand, I would be like, what the fuck? That is so much money for a holiday. Like, oh, how the other half live. I'd be quite jealous of people that had the money, had the cars, to the point where part of my story, when I was 19, I met an older man and I was attracted to him. I mean, you could say I was a gold digger, whatever that is, probably. But I was attracted to him. One of the reasons was because he had the money, the cars. He had that freedom to be like, oh, let's just go to London. Let's go here. Let's go there. So I was I wasn't, working class. I don't even know what these classes are. Probably upper working class, lower middle class as a family. And then when I met Wouter, my now husband, through you, I remember he said to me what his tax bill was for the year one time. And I nearly died because I was like, his tax bill is more than what I earn in a whole entire year. And I had so much shame around that, though, like unworthiness, shame of being around someone with a lot of money, as if I wasn't worthy of that. And so before I met you, when I moved here to the Netherlands, I had no savings. I was 30 years old. I had no life savings. I'd had savings and lost that along the way due to being engaged before, buying a house, losing the money through that, through my choices. It was all, through my choices. But I had no savings, no job, didn't know what I wanted to do, didn't have a passion for horses anymore. And so I had, in the material aspect, nothing. And then I remember meeting you through Wouter, and you know what I'm going to say now, crying to you down the phone, being like, I've got like €100 a month to live on, and I'm so upset. And oh my God, I had so many blocks. I did not even know that I had them. And so that's where I was before I met you, feeling unworthy of money, feeling it was so out of reach for me. And that could never be me. I could never earn that amount of money just being me or even working for somebody. And I always traded time for money, and I couldn't see any other way. And I would just look at you and look at Wouter and kind of be in awe and a bit jealous of what you both had. So that's where I was at before we met.
And I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that, because I remember these times, and I always have seen you in this version of you. I share that with you all the time. Like, I think that one of my favorite things that I get to do in the world is like I'm like, I've seen you. You've always been the wildly wealthy woman, and help you to really bring that potential out, because it's always been there. And it just sometimes takes us, like having someone just like me with Mike. I mean, you know, my mentor, right? Not everybody knows Mike. I talk a lot about Mike around my mentor around here, but not everyone knows him. But having someone like see more in you than you see in yourself at the time, it can be that could be literally life-changing in and of itself, to be able to say, like, I had no idea this was even possible. And when you start to get glimmers of it and glimpses of it, it's like, oh wait, this might be right. So I thank you for sharing all of that, because I know that it can be I know that a lot of people will resonate with where you were. And so in a moment, I want to ask about some of the specific blocks, some of the specific kind of things that you were experiencing in your life in terms of the way that it made you feel and all of that. But I want to talk about where you are now first, because again, I want people to see this is absolutely possible, especially for someone who really never thought that it was, right? And had no idea of how this was going to play out, or if it was going to play out. So can you talk about where you are right now on your journey?
I can. So now it still feels like so exciting, surreal, but also at the same time, of course, as I'm sharing this, I'm, attracting 20K months, being myself with so much time freedom, which doesn't make sense to me still, so much financial freedom, and honestly, living a life that I would never have thought could be possible beyond my wildest dreams. And I feel actually emotional sharing this, because like, what the fuck?
Me too.
Like, it's not just the money, it's the worthiness, it's all of it that comes with it. And the fact that I get to share and help women every day due to my schedule and my energy and how I feel, and get abundance, financial abundance in return for that is, and you've helped me with the nervous system stuff to not just lose that and spend it and throw it all away, because it felt too good to be true. And so now I can book business class flights, I can choose first class, I can buy the most expensive brand of chocolate, the little things and the big things. I go to a restaurant, Rebecca, and I don't even look at the price of the food. And I'm like, that is freedom to me. Whereas, if I'm with my mom, she'll go through the whole menu. She'll say how expensive it is or how cheap it is. She'll say she wants that, but it's too expensive. She'll have it anyway. And then it's always to do with the cost of it. And I understand if someone hasn't got the abundance yet, you can't just spend if it's not there. But I'm so blessed that if I want something, I'll just buy it. So I'm so grateful for all of it. And this is just the beginning. And my password, without telling the whole world my actual password with the numbers, is I am the wildly wealthy woman.
Wow. Oh my God. I was gonna get emotional. Well, I should have known, I feel like we talk all the time. We have our bestie chats every week, and I feel like I never think I'm gonna cry. I'm like, oh, this is just a chat. 50% of more than 50% of the time I'm crying, because of just realizing that this is our life, and how much of this we manifested together, right? And it's just so incredible. So thank you for bringing in the intangible things too, because that to me is true wealth. Like when I look at my life, it's not about the money that's in the bank. It's never about the money. We always think it's about the money, but it's not actually about the money. Like when you said, I go to a restaurant and I don't have to look at the price, I think that people who have always had money or always came from money, they might not understand the significance of that.
Yeah.
Like that is so unbelievably powerful. And literally your whole night, like think about going out on a date night, right? Not thinking of, or just going out by yourself. I know you do that a lot too, or going out with friends, not having to look at the menu. Like think about the energy that you're embodying as that version of you. You get to walk into this restaurant. You're not checking your bank balance. I remember doing all of those things. I remember being at the grocery store, right? Like literally, is my card going to go through, and checking my bank balance and making sure that I have enough money for this, or like you said, choosing the cheapest option. Like those are the kinds of things that it's the everyday aspects of your life, right? It's also the big things. It's also the vacations. It's also the holidays. It's also the trips and the first class flights and all of the things. And right, it's the little things. It's so much more than what I think is portrayed on social media. And that's the kind of conversations that I want to be having and I want to help women with, because it's so, so, so much more than these glorified lifestyles that I think we see that people need to portray, because that's not the full story, right? It's the way that we feel now around money. It's the energy that we get to have. It's the peace and the safety, right? And you brought up the nervous system piece. So let's talk a little bit about, because this is where I really want to share with people the difference that this can create in their lives. So let's go back to where you were before. How did you feel around money? Like what did money mean to you back then versus then we'll talk about what it means to you now.
Yeah. So if you'd asked me back then, which of course you did, because I've done the work with you, how I felt around money, the words scared, not enough, restricted, excitement, but then that wasn't the main, because excitement, because I would allow myself to go into fantasy, like, oh, imagine if I won the lottery, which again, I just put it completely outside of any of my doing. It was, imagine if some massive luck just came to me and I had all this money, that would be really cool. But day to day, it was, I've been to the supermarket with the calculator on my phone and had to roughly calculate what I'm buying because I didn't have payday till the next day. And I literally had like £20 in my bank account and I didn't want to go in my overdraft because then I'd have to have fees. So living in restraint, and my top value is freedom. So it's the opposite to who I am anyway, but constantly having to be like, oh, can I afford that? Oh, I can't afford that. Being told, no, I can't. And that has a massive effect on how you live day to day. And it links to worthiness for me, and obviously with everyone else as well. Like I didn't ask for what I wanted, even at a restaurant. Like now, I will go in, and if there's a dessert, let's say, this is my standard thing I usually do. If there's like a salted caramel brownie and a cheesecake, and I'm like, I don't know which one, I'll say to them, can you like create like a dessert with like both things in, with some ice cream and some of this sauce? And they can or they can't, and either way is fine. And if not, I'll just buy both and have both desserts. But it's allowed me to just speak up more for what I want. Whereas before that, even though I probably could have afforded like a dessert, I wouldn't even ask for what I wanted though. It's kind of so intertwined. So long-winded answer, but I felt restricted, restrained, lack, scarcity, not enough, that those kinds of feelings. And of course, that's what I was attracting more of.
Yeah. I think it's just amazing to see the journey unfold, and how that's so cute that you ordered two
Totally do that.
two desserts. I love it. So thank you for sharing that. And so what does money feel like to you now? What does money mean to you now? How does it show up for you now? What kind of relationship do you have with it now? Can we talk about that?
Yes. Excitement, abundant, supportive, choices. And when I've done, your guidance of money guidance meditations and things, money shows up in physical form as my higher self. which is
Mm.
really interesting because I do see money as masculine energy because it's a provider.
Mhm.
But when I see money in a vision, it's the embodiment of my higher self.
Yeah.
And so creativity, passion, purpose, because of course, the more money I make, the more people I can help, the more I can get my name out there. It's just so exciting. And also I enjoy luxury. I don't care for luxury handbags or luxury shoes. That's not my thing. But luxury travel and just having a hotel where, it's just that the 5-star and the extra service, like to me, that is just a moment of, oh, this is so delicious. And I'm just going to absorb all of this moment and just be so grateful. So
Mm.
that's how I feel around money now. And I love money.
Yeah.
And I respect money as well. It's not a case of, oh, I have this money now, I'm just going to spend willy-nilly and not actually take a moment to respect it and ask myself, okay, is this an investment or is this a cost? And if it's a cost, that's fine. But what's it going to bring me? Because I respect money and I love money and I also want it to grow and it will continue to grow.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And there's so many points that I want to pull out, because I think that when we look at wealth, not everyone, again, many people equate it to these luxury things, the jets, the fancy cars and mansions, and that is wealth. That's absolutely wealth, financial wealth. But what I see in spending 17 years, right, in the financial services industry, dealing with people who have more financial wealth than most people will ever be able to comprehend, right? And also knowing that they're miserable, they're unfulfilled, they're not happy, their family lives are shit, their health is shit. And they would trade. I literally had someone, he was I would say, the most financially wealthy person I've ever met in my life. And he owned a massive business. And he was sick and he had a hard time walking. Literally, he told me it's a chore to get out of his bed and to go turn off his alarm clock in the morning. Like, he's in constant pain. And I remember asking him, about his health, or it was something along the lines of, he said to me, I would trade it all. I would trade every dime of it, right? To have health, to be happy, to be fulfilled. He hated his life. And the crazy part is that that's definitely not the only person that I've seen that has a massive amount of wealth. That's been like, there's hundreds of stories that I could share. And so I love that you bring up that it's all about choices. It's about, how do you want to live your life? Because not everyone wants to live their life the same way. I believe that wealth brings us choices. You and I don't value the luxury handbags or the shoes. I don't care about those things. It was never important to me. But like you said, I want the time freedom, right? I want the luxurious hotels and the things where it's like, I'm laying here, same as you. It's like, okay, that's what we decide. But some people might say, I want to go and live off grid. I want to buy a house in the woods somewhere and sustain my own life and have no, don't want any parts of being a part of the system anymore. Well, that's wealth to them.
Yeah.
They don't need to have a helicopter to take them into the woods. Like that's wealth, right? But you have to have money. You have to have financial wealth to do those kinds of things. But also, there's nothing wrong, and I'm not shaming anyone who, you have desires. Material wealth is okay, right? Like, it's fine. You can want whatever you want, but don't do things just because other people want them. And I love that you brought up this idea of, I'm trying to think exactly how you said it, but when you were saying that you respect money, and it's, am I just making this decision because, is this my ego that's making this decision? Do I really actually want this? And that is where the nervous system regulation comes in, because this is, now you're in a position where you're not just buying things on impulse, right? Because you have a dysregulated nervous system and you just want to go and like spend the money. There's this saying here in the US, I'm sure it's probably something you've heard before, but it talks about how, people will have money that burns a hole in their pocket. Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, as soon as I have money, I want to go and spend it. That is so indicative of a unregulated nervous system, someone who does not feel safe around wealth, someone who doesn't feel worthy enough of holding on to it and creating wealth. So the fact that you can make these decisions and say, okay, this is because I truly want it, or, maybe I don't want that thing. Maybe that's just my ego, or, I would rather have the money in the bank. I'd rather have that money growing. Right.
Yeah.
So can you touch a little bit on like that decision-making process? Because I think this is something that's completely overlooked, and people think that abundance is, okay, I'm just going to spend all of the money and it'll come back. And it's like, no, that's not how that works, right? Making decisions from our higher self versus our ego. Can you talk about that? I want to hear a little bit more
Yeah.
about how you do
You've
that.
helped me about this, obviously, because this is as a outcome of the work we've done together. When I first started to receive more money, I did spend it not on material things. And again, nothing wrong with people who love handbags and shoes, and that I'm all about that if that excites the person. But I would spend it on investments, like investing in myself, which is always great, but that I probably didn't really need, or it wasn't aligned at the time. And after speaking with you, it was because I had a fear that you helped me to bring conscious that if I have more money, I'm going to be expected to spend it on people. That means I'm going to have to buy dinner every time we go out. I'm going to have to buy this for this person, because that's what I was trained to do when I was younger as well. So no wonder unconsciously I didn't want to keep earning more, because that would mean I'd just have to give it away more. And so I had that fear of like, well, I don't want to earn more, even though I do, because then I've got to have to give it away. And I don't want to do that either. And so I'm just going to stay in my safe little not enough zone, because I don't have to deal with that. So to be able to work through that and share with people if I felt safe sharing, actually, the comments you've made, jokingly they were made, like, oh, you've earned this month, you can buy this. And, from my husband even, and from my mum especially, the pressure that I had to then spend it just because I now have it, that was so unsafe to me, because it was almost like, well, what's the point? Because I'm attracting all this and it's going again and it's not even on me. Then I was like, is it selfish to want it to be just on me? And so I had to work through that. But now I see money the same way. It's so funny how both my work and your work align. So with food freedom, yeah, you can eat the brownie just because you can eat the brownie. It's absolutely fine. But do you want that? How are you going to feel physically after? If it either is fine, but taking a moment to build that relationship up with money and with your body. So I see money as a partner in a way, I see her as my higher self. But when I'm talking like this, I'm in a relationship with money. So if I was in a romantic relationship with money, would it want to sleep with me? Am I respecting it? Am I looking at it? Am I loving it? Am I appreciating it? Am I not taking it for granted? And so I actually see everything in my life in relationship to self, and how I'm treating that and how I feel around that. So it's always both. And I can spend money and go business class just because I can. Is that important enough to me to spend the extra $2,000 or whatever it is compared to standard class? For me, yes, because of the time I'm in the plane for. If I'm going from Netherlands to Egypt, which is like 4 hours, is it enough and important enough for me to pay business class? No, I can afford it, but actually, because I respect it and all of that. So it's taking the time from a place of abundance to actually choose what is best for you and where you want to go with money as well. I mean, if I was a multi-billionaire, I probably wouldn't have to think about these things,
Yeah,
but it's a relationship too.
absolutely. Yeah. And this is something that I talk a lot about inside of like there's a bonus module that I know that we touched on, which is it trauma or is it intuition, right? And is it coming from your highest self? So I love that you bring these things up, because it is a relationship. It's respecting. It's like, okay, is this decision coming from fear, or is this decision coming from love? Like, is this really the right decision for me? So I love that you bring that up. And I'm so excited about your upcoming trips. I'm not gonna not gonna share too much on those, but I'm so excited because it is true. It's like, okay, I could do this, and is it in my best interest? And is it the right thing? Because I think that a lot of times in this social media day and age, people are talking about, well, abundance is, you have to go all in and you invest all your money. And it's like, you have to, I hear this one a lot, like you have to charge, or you can't charge what you haven't invested in yourself into a coach. Like you have to have paid X amount of money for coaching in order to, charge that. And it's like, what are you, that's just, in my opinion, marketing, because the truth is like, no, you don't, right? You can call in the kind of money that you want, and you don't have to go and then spend it, right? Like, you don't have to do that. That's not something that we don't have to do any of these things. But when we know the difference between the two voices of the ego and, our highest self, we can then make decisions and say, okay, I'm going to follow my gut. And I love that you brought up, because our work is so intertwined. And one of the things that I see happening is I am a pattern spotter. Like, I'm really good at like spotting people's patterns, and then helping them see this, right? And I know that you are too, because we both do this for each other. And I want to talk about like this kind of light bulb moment that you had, because you are an incredible coach. Like, you are one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. And I really just truly believe that you are one of the, if not the best coach in your space, literally. And you are in the food freedom, eating disorder recovery, and body love and self-confidence space. And so you get to do this now for a living. You've cleared all these blocks away. But let's talk about, like, do you remember that conversation that we had where it was like, just take what you've done in this and move it to this? So what I'm referencing, for those of you who weren't there for the call, of course, which is no one but us, it was, Victoria asked the question about, how do I heal this? Or how, it was something along the lines of, there was a block and you wanted to heal it. And I'm like, just take what you've done around healing your relationship with food, your eating disorder, and how can you apply those same things to money? And I think so many times, and you were like, oh my God,
like light bulb moment. Oh my God.
Hello.
Life changer.
But I think it's so funny that we don't recognize this unless we have a coach or someone in our lives who can. That's the best thing that we've been able to be for each other over these last 4 years. And we haven't shared about our journey that much. Maybe we'll get to that. But these last 4 years have been incredible, because we've both invested in each other's work, and we've been able to mirror back to one another. Okay, can you see where this blind spot is showing up for you? And I want to touch on that, because I think that many people feel like, oh, I can do it in this area of life, but I can't do it here. And that's why I say, like, the work that we do, you could literally apply it to any area of life. We just choose to apply, you would choose to apply it in eating disorder recovery, right? And I choose to apply it in money, because that's the area that we feel called to do that. But can we talk about that, and that light bulb moment that you had, and kind of what that led you to see in your own life?
Yeah, definitely. I remember it so well. It is the Align method that you use, which is obviously a signature to you. I use it similar but different, without realizing it was similar but different, with my own clients around food freedom. And it was, I think the biggest light bulb moment was, it was to do with a mirror. I remember I was talking about a mirror, and I think I was talking about, acting as if, doing all the body love work, being there for yourself. And then you were like, well, you can just do that with your financial relationship and with money. And I was like, oh my God, of course I can. And there's also a massive aspect in that of acting as if. And what you did for me, and always continue to do, is I don't think I set limits for myself until you're like, you're limiting yourself, and you remind me to remove that glass ceiling of potential that I've placed on myself. You remove that completely, and then remind me that any fucking thing is possible. What do you want? And then you create that space holding me in it as I step into that. So the support's there. If you weren't there and I just got randomly asked the question, I think it would be too vast. It would be too much of a, oh, but I don't want to jump without you being like next to me, jumping with me kind of thing. So you just took away all my limitations and helped me get excited more than scared with the steps that I was taking, because there's a lot of action gone into this work, right? You can't just sit on the sofa and change your mindset around it. You've got to take the action. And some of the action, I was like, oh, holy shit, this is like, I have no money, but then I'm doing this, and then now it's going again. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in that trauma response around money again. And then you supported me through that. And then you take that step, and you take the step with me, but you took away all the limitations and you act as if until you get proof that your new belief that you want to believe is true for you. And then you just continue growing from there. And then once you've earned a 20K month, that's like your minimum. Well, of course you can do that again because you've already done it however many times. And so I remember when Mike, was it Mike, you and someone else? KJ, no, the other
JP.
guy, JP, was on the phone on our mastermind, and he was like, yeah, we'll get you to 4K months. Yeah, that's easy in a couple of months. And I was literally like, oh my, is this guy serious? Like, he's just talking for 4K months as if it's like £100. And I was like thinking, there's no way on this, that is way out of my league. And then now 4K months, I'm like, yeah, that's a really small month. Like, I can't remember the last time I had a 4K.
Oh, it's amazing because there is really no difference between 100 pounds and a 4K, like, but
Yes.
we believe that there is, right? And so sometimes,
Yes.
like you said, we need each other. And to reflect back to you, and for those of you who are listening, like, this is the exact journey that you walked me through as it relates to healing my eating disorder and healing my, nervous system around feeling safe in my own body, right? And that's the power of a coach, right? That's the power of having people in your corner who can point these blind spots out. It's so incredibly powerful, because I do remember, this conversation around setting these energetic minimums and these minimum amounts of money. And, it's like, because I think you had hit like 18K or something. And then you were like, well, like sometimes I hear people say like, it's a fluke, or I don't know if I can do that again. It's like, well, what the hell? What's the difference? Like, you did it once. Why would you not be able to do it again? It's like just assuming that, okay, so I learned how to tie my shoe once, but I'm never going to learn how to do it again. What? It makes no sense. Like, of course you could do it again. Why wouldn't you be able to do it again? Like, that's what you're an energetic match for. But then what happens is, and especially as it relates to the nervous system, which is something that, of course, most of us, I believe, need to work on, because it's not just about calling the money in, right? It's about holding on to it, maintaining it, becoming normalizing, which is, the last step in the Align method. It's about normalizing this level of wealth so we know we can call it in again. And I think that's like a big part that's missing, because what happens is people will have their biggest month ever, and then they're like, oh, and then they go back into those scripts, like you said, and the body doesn't feel safe around it, because, as you know, with the nervous system, anything that is unfamiliar to the nervous system is automatically deemed as unsafe. And so it's like, oh, that's too much abundance, or it's too much wealth, and like, I don't know how I would recreate it, right? And now you're like blowing past these numbers, and it's just so cool to watch, because you're like, yeah, 20K is like just totally normal.
But you've helped me to become, and I say the word become like that because in my mind I've got like a capital B and an E. I've had to be the type of woman, the wealthy woman who has 20K months like it's nothing. And so it's more than, obviously, as you talk about, it's more than just attracting wealth. It's being that woman who is wealthy, who is at her core, that woman. And then when you change your being and your identity and who you are and your energy and your worthiness, when you know that you're actually worthy of living that life, that was a big thing for me, then of course it keeps happening. And then you just increase, and then you raise your financial thermostat and worthiness thermostat, and then do the nervous system stuff to keep yourself at the raised thermostat, and then enjoy that, and then and then you just keep going. But you have to be a different woman every time you step up, and that is never comfortable, but it kind of gets really exciting as you continue being a different woman, because you can't be what you've always been and get something different. And you taught me that. So you've always gone first as well. So when you used to share with me, I've hired a housekeeper, and I've hired a VA, and I've hired an assistant, and I'm like, I want that. And I'm like, wait, why can't I have that? And then you're like, well, you can have that, and I invite you to do that. And I'm like, oh, no, I can't do that. And then you've gone first and been the example, which obviously a true mentor and coach should do anyway, and shown me that it's possible, because I couldn't have done this without our work, because I was still trading time for money, thinking 10,000 on a holiday is ridiculously expensive and there must be a millionaire to spend that much money on a holiday, being jealous of anyone who did stuff that I wanted to do. And then look where I am now. So
Mm.
thank you.
Of course. Oh my God. Yeah, I would do it 1,000 times over because this is absolutely the gift that I believe that I was sent here to do, right? And same as you, like you've done so much. You've given me so much as well. Like, and it's not a tit for tat. It's not that, but it's just knowing that we have the ability to help one another with these kinds of things. And this is what we're here to do in the world.
Yeah.
This is a special gift. And this is also why we're talking about this, because I know there's many people out there who are listening who sometimes we don't recognize the power of the work that we do. I know for a lot of times there's been conversations, the most pivotal conversations that you bring up a lot that were so helpful for you were not even when I felt like I was in coach mode or something. It was always just like, yeah, like, of course that would happen. It's just the way that I speak. It's just my energy. It's just who I am. And I know it's the same with you. And it's just like, for those of you who are coaching, for those of you who are out here doing this work in the world, knowing that just who you are is enough, right? Like knowing that what it is that you are an expert in, your energy, the fact that you were called to do this work in the world is enough. It's enough. And so as you can become that wildly wealthy woman and start to overcome that unworthiness and start to really step into that belief and that confidence in yourself, that is what allows for you to then know that it's enough. And when you know that it's enough, once you know that it's enough, it's like
Oh
game
boy.
over. Game
Off
over.
you go.
Off you
Bye-bye.
go. Bye. Now it's like, shoo, because you send a massive sign to the universe. You are declaring. And when you declare and you decide, the word decision means to cut off all other options, right? We know this. And so when you decide that, and I want to talk about this here in a second, because I know that people will likely say, okay, well, it's easy for you to be the wildly wealthy woman now because you have all this money and you have, income. So I want to talk about what it means to be the wildly wealthy woman and embody this version of you before, because we all had to do that before it ever showed up in our reality, right?
Yes.
So, and let's go there. Let's go there. So let's talk about what that looks like before you get there. How do you actually become the wildly wealthy woman before it shows up in your reality? And what were some of the things that you were doing well before this ever came into your physical world?
Yeah, great question, because so many people say, don't they? Well, I'm supposed to be abundant and acting as if I'm abundant, but how can I book a holiday when I've got no money in the bank account? And how can I not focus on the lack when it's physically not there to spend? And I had the same questions that you obviously guided me through. So for me, it started off small, and it started off with actions I'm going to share with you, and also visualizations. So when I mentioned before, but I was blocking myself with all the money blocks, when I mentioned before that I would allow myself to visualize winning the lottery, I swapped that vision to, through your guided meditations and things as well. What if anything were possible, just let's play make believe, let's just completely be in fantasy right now. If anything were possible, what would I create? Not what would I be given with a lottery win, like what would I create and how would I be living my life? So I would spend 10 minutes a day in a closed eye process and imagining the holidays I would go on, and I say swearing that because it's the first time I booked business class, the fucking business class I'd be flying on, which was a distant dream, the first class trains I'd be sat in, the dining I'd be eating. Like I would just allow myself to be a child and play make believe and imagine all these things already happening now, with no pressure to try and make it happen, with no pressure of the how, just allowing myself to be a child again and use our strongest sense, which is our imagination and our intuition, for guidance. So that's a big one. Daily focusing on that. The second thing is being grateful. We say this a lot, but it's really key. Being grateful for what you actually have now. So, I've spoke about my story. I've not been in poverty. I've always had food on the table. I've always been blessed to have a holiday every year since I was a child. I had a lot and still have a lot and always will have a lot to be grateful for. So yes, back in the day, I might not have been able to afford to go on holiday when I wanted to, or go to England to see my family if I didn't earn enough money yet. But I could be grateful for the roof I had and the food I had and the voucher support and your support. There's so much to be grateful for. That increases your vibration anyway. The third thing, some action steps around money and spending. So I would go to the supermarket, and let's say chocolate is always one option that I use. Instead of like buying the cheaper chocolate because it was cheaper and I could get more for the same money, I would tune into my higher self and be like, sweetheart, what do you want? Imagine if you had all the money in the world, because we're talking chocolate, not a bloody car. What would you choose? So I would start to treat myself to the luxurious brands of chocolate that, you know, a bar might cost like €6 instead of like €1. So I would start there, and I'd be so grateful. And then I'd like really be mindful with the luxury that, you know, the luxury of that chocolate bar, the luxury of, if I did upgrade, I would look at a train ticket because I'm always traveling somewhere. And I would look at, right, standard fare is, let's say, €25. First class is €37. And I'd sit there and I think, you know what? I'm going to choose first class because it's not a massive difference, but it's the action I'm taking because I deserve it and I want to experience that. So you start off with the little things, as well as being grateful, as well as going to your visualization every day, as well as taking the action steps that are scary. Jump and the net will appear. And before you know it, you're like, oh yeah, 4K months are my new normal. Oh yeah, 10K months are my new normal. Like, holy shit, Rebecca, like I need to send you a screenshot of like my 20K month. And you just end up where you are. And this is only the beginning. I don't have a vision to help to have a huge company where people are all under me. I know you have other ideas about that, and maybe I will because we spoke about that before. But I have a vision that's bigger than this one now, and it's going to involve attracting more money, and I'm worthy of that. I'm ready to receive that. But what's important to me also is a lifestyle with time freedom. So I went off on a tangent there, Rebecca. I don't even know what the question was anymore.
No, it was perfect. It was everything. And the question was, how do you embody the wildly wealthy woman? And you
Oh
shared
yeah.
exactly what it is. And it's those little things. So if you're listening now and you're like, I don't know where to get started, I don't know how to do this, it is the little things, right? It's the small things. And I talk about this inside of, I have a process around this. You remember like the embody you process, the big you?
Yes.
This
Yes.
is it's really, so this is available inside of one of my free trainings, as a matter of fact, and I'm going to make that training paid. I've just made the
Yeah,
decision.
you should. You give
Um,
so much value away for free. It's insane.
thank you. And so while that training, it's called How to Rise to Riches Using the Align Method, is free, you might want to snag it because I am going to make it paid. But this is a process called the Embody You process as well, which you're talking about too. And now you just, you know, obviously you're using this, and sometimes we can just make these processes down into like a couple minutes. Like we start to embody this. So it's no longer having to sit down and write out all these visions and how would I show up and all that stuff. Like now it's just, it starts to get quicker. And I think that's the beautiful part of this journey, right? You see with your clients as well, like when you embody it, you take it from knowledge and you turn it into wisdom. Now it's like, you know, it's that light bulb moment that we talk about. It's no longer just something that you know, it's now who you are. And that's the process that you've walked, is like, now it's, I could do this in my sleep. Whereas before, yes, it was a learning curve, just like anything, right? Just like as I was learning, I remember calling you and having issues and meltdowns and things when I'm on the beach and I'm like, I don't know how to accept my body. I know you tell me I should. But now it's like, I just look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I love me. It's no big deal. And that, by the way, is massive, massive growth as well. Like, but I couldn't have done any of that without you. So I just want to mirror back, like, this is the process, right, that we walk as we are stepping into these new identities and becoming this new version of us. And it's not because I have people that will say, well, it's easy for you to say. And it's like, I'll tell you right now, if I have a couple, hours to tell you my whole story, I promise you'll see that it wasn't easy for me. And I had to embody it first. And it's the same for you. There's levels to this. There's layers to this, right? So I love that you bring that up because it's all a process now where it's like, yeah, I just envision it. I see it. I accept. And it's wonderful because now this is just who you are. And so the faster that we get at this, the less that we have in the way in terms of energetic blockages, the faster it starts to show up in our lives. And now it's just like, well, of course I can do it. Of course I can do it. It's not a question. Why the hell wouldn't I? I've done it before. Why wouldn't I be able to do it now? So I love that you bring that up, and I love watching you do this, right? And I love being in your world to be able to see how much, because really what it is that you're creating, it's not about the money like we talk about. The money is a direct reflection of how much impact you're making in the world, and hearing testimonials and hearing your clients and seeing how people are literally coming out of your coaching and they're like, I want to be a coach because my life just transformed in the last 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is. And now I want to go help other people with this, like the ripple effect of what it is that you're doing in the world. I get emotional thinking about that. I'm not going to cry again. But the truth is that that is the reason that you're doing what you're doing. That is why it's such a, again, it's a direct reflection. The money is a direct reflection of that. And there was a quote by Jim Rohn, who was a famous like motivational speaker, and he
I
says,
love him. So
I
funny.
love him. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with Jim. Well, he's passed away, but you can still find him on YouTube. And he talks about, he's quoted saying like that, if you, okay, now I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact quote, but it's, if you help enough other people get what they want, you will always get what you want. And it's
Yeah.
taking that pressure that, us placing the order with the universe. Here's what I want through the visualization. Here's what I want to create. I'm playing with this imaginary situation. This is what I want. And now the universe knows what you want. And then showing up in the action, right? And 99% of the time, it's by helping other people get what they want, no matter what it is that you're doing. It doesn't matter what your business is. It doesn't matter what kind of coaching or mentoring, or even if you're a cashier, like my daughter's 17, she's helping people get what they want in the grocery store. Like that's what she's doing, and she's providing a smile on someone's face when they come by in a world full of people who, don't smile. Right. So we're giving people what they want. You give enough people what they want, help enough other people get what they want, you're always going to get what you want. And that's what you're
Being of service. Yeah. How can I serve today? And obviously, as you and I both know, part of the transformation, this is your quote, is in the transaction. And so as I've grown with you and your work, and as my worthiness is, I want to say my worthiness has expanded. It has, but I've just remembered how worthy I am, because we're already innately worthy. We just forget and we have blocks in the way. So it's not like I've learned how to be worthy. We already fucking are. We just remember. And so with that, of course, my prices have increased. I remember starting off coaching, like the first of all, I coach people for free, like I think 2 to 3 people for free, to get testimonials and to prove to myself that, I think that's really important. You've got to start somewhere. And then over time, like my first ever paid client, it was 3 months, so 12 weeks, weekly coaching, unlimited WhatsApp, all the program. I think it was like 800 euros for like 3 months. And now it's like minimum 4 grand. And that's the one-to-one. Then it expands depending on a sliding scale of how much the client's net worth is. But as I've been able to raise my prices, I've also been able to extend my product suite and make it my work accessible for those that don't have that kind of money. So I've got group coaching, I've got an online program, I've got a membership. So I wouldn't be able to have done that and served even more people if I wasn't charging more money and having that investment and energy exchange in a higher level as I've continued to grow. And people, this is one of your quotes again, people pay attention to what they pay for. I've had a client before I raised my prices pay the full price for 3 months coaching up front, don't do the program, don't really show up. And I'm not saying everyone's like that, of course, but this client was extremely wealthy and she didn't value it because it wasn't a stretch for her. So that's when I introduced a different mechanism in my business. So as we grow, we encourage our clients to grow, and it's just such a huge ripple effect, which is never going to stop. But we're being of service first. The money is just a bonus, an outcome of being of service. And okay, let me rephrase that and I'll be quiet. Being of service and knowing your worth. Because someone can be of service and give stuff away for free all the time and burn themselves out and just give and help people. But when you're of service and you value your value, it's a game changer.
Oh my God. It's like mic drop right there. I love it. And I never want you to be quiet, by the way. So you don't ever have to. So as we're kind of wrapping up, there's a couple more questions that I have for you, because I really want to, I mean, you've been through all of my work. I want to say that we met at the very beginning stages of my business. Yeah, because I met you through becoming a certified high performance coach. And that was like the beginning stages of my business, which I don't even use that certification anymore. I came up with my own and through the Align method and whatnot. But you've pretty much been a part of all of my programs and even working together in a one-to-one capacity. And same with you, like we've literally been with each other every step of the way and every evolution that we've had. So you've been in the money mindset mastery program, you've been in the soul powered portal bundle. We worked together in all the different trainings in a one-to-one capacity. So you know my work deeply, probably more so than anyone else, because you've been here from the beginning. I would say definitely more so than anyone else, even like my husband, which is funny. Because we share so much with each other. So what would your advice be, even this new rendition? Okay, because those of you who are listening, you know that I have recently shifted the way that I'm doing things, and I'm actually going deeper and into a more intimate type of container into my Rise to Riches experience, which I'm so effing lit up about. And you are in there too, which is so exciting. So
Of course I am.
I would love for you to share, what advice would you give to someone who might be on the cusp of diving into one of my containers, working with me in any capacity? What would you say to someone who's maybe on the fence about that?
The first question I would say, quite bluntly, with love, is what are you waiting for? Because if you're waiting to be ready, if you're waiting to have enough money to then invest, which I get, if you physically are not going to be able to eat or pay your mortgage, there's a difference, right? But if it's a case of like making it fucking work, because I've had to just make it work, and that's when the huge growth comes, what are you waiting for? Because Rebecca has every single thing you will ever need. I mean, listen to my story. We're only just getting started. Like, and the life I live now, if I died tomorrow, we didn't actually die, but if I left my physical body tomorrow, there's nothing that I would regret, because I'm on the path where I want to be. And so Rebecca's trainings, mentorship, just being in Rebecca's world, energy trainings, is life changing. It's not just a training, because I've been in money trainings before and I've been like, yeah, get it. And then nothing's really changed. But having someone hold your hand and create that vision for you and really work on it, because even in your programs, you're very much kind of one-to-one. Like, you're not just a trainer, you're more than that. And that's, in my opinion, what's really important. That's what both you and I have with our clients. We really care about every single individual person. And I feel that. And that's a whole nother world. And so what are you waiting for? The only thing I would say is probably you have a fear of your greatness, because I did without realizing it. So like I said, I was finding it easier to stay small because it was my comfort zone. And then, you don't know the unknown and what if. But if you're ready and willing to be open to receiving the abundance that you've always wanted, then what are you waiting for? Come and join us. I say us because I'm
Yes.
in every program of Rebecca's anyways.
Same. Yeah. We'll always be a part of each other's work. And thank you for bringing that up. And I love that. I really do appreciate that. And I think that so many of us have this fear of our greatness because it's easier, it's more comfortable to stay small. But the thing is that's our nervous system keeping us stuck. I have a masterclass coming up that is a bonus inside of the Rise to Riches program that is all around how to reset your financial thermostat. And that's the truth, is your nervous system, your unconscious mind. This is for another episode, but the truth is it doesn't want you to succeed. It doesn't want you to, it wants to keep you safe. I mean, that's the reality of it. It wants to help you to survive, and that's it. And so anything above and beyond that, it's going to be difficult. I mean, you and I have both been through this work. I did come from poverty. Like the amount of shifts that we have to make, it can be difficult to do on your own. And what I've noticed in our industry is a lot of money mentors, a lot of coaches that are teaching manifestation and money, the industry is kind of calling us to move further away from our clients, right? Which is what
Yeah.
I was being taught over the last couple of years, which was totally not in alignment with where I am now and not in alignment with where my soul wants to be. But I do know that a lot of people are moving in the direction of, okay, you can buy my courses, you can be in my world, but you're going to have no access to me. You're not going to have the support. You're not going to have the help. And that's just the opposite of what I believe both of our souls have called us to do. And so that is what makes us unique. That is what makes us different. And I love being in the worlds of my clients. It's so incongruency. It's in incongruency with me to me not to do that. Right. And so I think that's why there was a little bit of disconnect there for a while, because we don't have to follow what the crowd is saying, right? We need to follow what our soul is saying. And so I appreciate you saying that. And last question that I have for you is, what would you say to someone who, maybe they are feeling that fear, they have a lot of self-doubt, a lot of unworthiness, things that are coming up. They don't think that it's possible for them to get where you are. What would you say to them at this point in time?
I would say, again, with love and bluntness, why are you so special that you're different? And I say this with my eating disorder clients too. I know how you feel, because if I was listening to this episode 6 years ago, I would be like, yeah, well, I couldn't do that because of what all the limiting beliefs would come up. But why are you so special and different that this wouldn't work for you? Because it's not like this magical, well, it is magical, but all you have to do is show up for yourself and stretch yourself. Like, if it's easy for you to pay the investment, ask Rebecca for only one-to-one, because you need to be stretched. That's number one. Make it work. Do what Rebecca says, and you will literally get the results that I have and more. Like, it can't be more simple. It's not some kind of, yeah, some people do, some people don't. You've got to have the personality of Victoria because she's confident and bold. Yeah, I'm confident in general as a person, but how do you think I've got to this level? Through investing in myself, doing exactly what Rebecca said to me, even when I was like, oh, fuck off, really? And you were like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, I'm just going to do it. And doing what she says with that support, you will literally get where you want to be. There's no missing link here. So again, it comes down to, if you're ready to truly live the life you desire, I know that sounds too good to be true, but this is the truth, then take that step and do it, because otherwise, where are you going to be in 6 months' time, a year's time? You could die tomorrow. I mean, God forbid none of us do, but who knows? Just do it. It's possible. It is so freaking possible. I never thought it would be possible for me. And sometimes if I really sat with it, I would just cry with gratitude, because when I sent you that video the other week, I laughed and it just turned into like an ugly cry.
Yeah.
Because I was so grateful for what I've created. And it's almost, yeah, I have to pinch myself, but it's true. And it's possible for every single person. So
thank you so much for sharing that. And you are so right. This is universal law, guys. I heard there was a channel that was speaking the other day, that Bashar that I always send you his videos. And someone had asked a similar question, and I'll end on this, that he said, this is universal law. You can choose to accept it or not. I don't know what you think, and he's very blunt, by the way. And maybe this isn't the way that I would say things, but he said, what makes you so special? Like, what do you think? You're the only exception to universal law. Like, it's ridiculous. If you want to believe that, then you can be the exception. But this is all a journey that we've had to walk. I mean, every single one of us has had this not having this belief in ourselves, right? So it's something that we can cultivate together. I don't expect people to come into my world and just know how to navigate all of this. You wouldn't need me if you did, right? But it is possible, because it's universal law. And I teach a lot of universal law, right? It's neuroscience. It's stuff that is like, it's law. It is what it is. It's just the way that it works. And we can choose to believe it, right? But it's our beliefs that shape our reality and not the other way around. So if you want to choose that, it's like, hey, you either believe that you can or you believe that you can't. And either way, you're right. And that's the truth. And that's how we get to live our lives. So, Victoria and I will be doing a lot of things together. I'm so excited to, we're not going to talk about any of that right now, but we have a lot of incredible things that are coming up. If you want to be in the Rise to Riches container, join us. Victoria's there, right? Come into my world, be a part of this. And continue to follow this journey. And if you guys want to learn more about Victoria and what she does in the world, please give her a follow. I will ask you to just share really quickly, where can people find you if they want to follow your journey and kind of see what it is that you're doing in the world? Because I know that you've been on this show before and you'll be on here again. This won't be the last time, but if somebody wants to just see what it is that you're doing and how incredible of a life that you've built and how you're helping your clients, and, share with them where they can find you so that they can connect with you as well.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. It's simple and easy, victoriakleinsman.com. And from there, there's my Instagram, my Facebook, my TikTok, my LinkedIn. Don't go on there because I do nothing on LinkedIn, but all the links at the bottom of my website, victoriakleinsman.com. My podcast also is on there, the Body Love Binge. And I want to leave them with a quote, which was a big one that I used to say to myself. So I'll say it in the first person because I used to say this to myself. The more me I am, the more money I make. So the best way to love yourself is to be yourself.
Wow. That's incredible. Mic drop. Thank you so much, Victoria, for being here. Guys, check her out. Of course, she's so incredible, and get to know her a little bit because, like I said, she's going to be back in my world. We're going to put a little teaser out there. There are more things that we will be doing together in the future. And if you love this episode, you love to hear her journey, you will love following her on social. You'll love connecting with her. Shoot her a DM, let her know how inspiring her story has been, because I'm sure that she would be so grateful to do that. So thank you so much, Victoria. I love you so much. And guys, we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.